A Chinese social credit system is here, and it may honestly be worse than the real thing. Data isn't just being collected from your phone, it's being used to score you, predict your behavior, and may determine whether you're able to get hired for jobs, get healthcare, get insurance, and dictate your life. All based on your personal information and your activity online. I'm screwed. Hello everyone, this is Mr. Obvious, and today on the internet, we're here on Crone.com. Now, when I first saw this story, I was absolutely shocked. Well, I have an archived version of the story. I wanted to look at the original story, and it's honestly not shocking to me that our personal information is being used, but I had no idea that shadow companies, secret companies, were using software to collect our data, predict our behavior, and it may be used as some sort of twisted social score system in order to determine if people are going to hire you, if you get to live somewhere, if you get health insurance, and whether or not you're going to be treated like a second-class citizen. This is horrible and needs to be called out. People need to know about it, and that's why I'm making this video. This isn't normally something I would talk about simply because I'm not sure that people would be interested. But let me tell you folks, this is terrifying. Now we're going to jump into this story. We're going to talk about the details and exactly what these companies are doing, these shadow companies are doing online. But before we do, if you're new to the channel, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And hit the bell button for notifications for more content. And if you like this video, please consider giving it a share. Now, this is very important. The story begins. Operating in the shadows of the online marketplace, specialized tech companies you've likely never heard of are tapping vast troves of our personal data to generate, quote, secret surveillance scores, digital mugshots of millions of Americans that supposedly predict our future behavior. Now, this is the scary part, folks, because this software, it's not even based on what you've done. The software predicts what you will do. So if the software predicts that you're going to become a criminal or that you're not going to pay your loans or anything like that, you're screwed. Because the company will see that report and say, you know what, I'm not gonna do business. You can't get a loan. You can't live at this house. You can't get health insurance. The firms sell their scoring services to major businesses across the U.S. economy. People with low scores can suffer harsh consequences. So CoreLogic and TransUnion say that scores they peddle to landlords can predict whether a potential tenant will pay the rent on time, be able to, quote, absorb rent increases, or break a lease. And I think you can begin to see why this software is evil. And personally, I think it needs to be banned by the United States. The US government needs to ban this technology and ban this practice. This, my friends, not only is it unethical, what happens if their software is flawed, which it most likely is? All AI is, generally speaking, pretty flawed. What happens if it's wrong? And because of that, you don't get employed? It's ridiculous. This is disturbing. Large employers use HireVue, a firm that generates an employability score about candidates by analyzing tens of thousands of factors, including a person's facial expression and voice intonations. So let me get this straight. If this software doesn't like the way you talk or the way you look, you will not be able to get hired. You will not be able to have a job. This, my friends, not only is this pseudoscience, this is just dystopian in a way that it's not even imaginable. Not even a Chinese social credit score system seems to employ this kind of technology. Maybe they do. But I don't want to see this kind of technology anywhere near the free country of the United States. And make no mistake, some people will say, well, companies can do what they want. This is innovation. If companies want to use this technology, they should be able to. I disagree. I disagree. Why? Because technology like this, it's not an example of freedom. It's an example of a device, of a software used to restrict other people's freedoms. It is a system meant to take away people's rights, which is a violation of our freedoms. So other employers use Cornerstone Score, which considers where a job prospect lives and which web browser they use to judge how successful they will be at a job. Okay. So this is starting to get creepy. Not only, they're now racially profiling people. Oh, you come from a rough neighborhood? Oh, wow. I don't like you. You come from a rough neighborhood, so I'm not going to hire you and give you a chance to actually make something of your life. And then this whole web browser thing, like, he uses Internet Explorer. What kind of psychopath is this? I can kind of agree with that. If people use Internet Explorer, they're probably insane and probably, serial killers or something. I'm obviously exaggerating here. This is nonsense. I don't care what browsing software you use. So brand name retailers are purchasing risk scores from a retail equation to help make judgments about whether consumers commit fraud when they return goods for refunds. Players in the gig economy use outside firms such as Sift to score consumers' overall trustworthiness. Wireless customers predicted to be less profitable are sometimes forced to endure longer customer service hold times. So this is just straight up discrimination. Literally. Oh, well, you're not going to make us as much money, so F you. You wait in the long line. Yeah. What a wonderful way to do business, and certainly, what a wonderful way to keep my business. I'm going to tell you right now, if a company employs any of this technology, I'm not going to shop there if I can help it, because this is disgusting. This is sickening. This should be illegal. That's why I'm making this video. I want people to know. I want people to raise the alarms. Make some complaints. Somebody file discrimination claims against these companies, because that's what they're doing. They're discriminating, especially if you're a minority. They're going to say, oh, you live in this neighborhood full of mostly minorities. File lawsuits, file claims, file complaints with the U.S. government. Go to whoever you have to go to, the FTC or whoever handles this. It's illegal. So auto insurers raise premiums based on scores calculated using information from smartphone apps that track driving styles. Blah, blah, blah. There's software to predict whether we're going to take our medication based on how often we refill our prescriptions. Healthcare providers and insurance companies can use those scores to match the right patient investment level to the right patients. Okay, that's a fancy way of saying, if you don't make us money, F you. Yeah, this is totally ethical. So many things I can't say on this platform, but to the people who made this software, I think you should be in prison, honestly. And I think that this technology eventually is going to bite you in the ass. I think that when you push for this kind of technology, it's only a matter of time before something truly nightmarish comes out and you end up screwed. So surveillance scoring is a product of two different trends. First is the rampant and mostly unregulated collection of every intimate detail about our lives. And this is why privacy is so important. This is why we need laws and regulations that bans the collection, or at least the use and selling of private data. Data is an evil industry, period. I don't need fancy data and analytics and data mining in order to, run a business. You make a product, you provide a service, you make money, or you don't. Whatever happened to just doing what worked? Now, here's the problem, folks, and this is like getting into science fiction. What happens when people stop thinking for themselves and they become too reliant on systems like data mining and predictions? Well, if any of you have seen the movie Paycheck, I'm going to provide a little example. It's science fiction. So what happened in Paycheck was the machine that predicts and this is a huge spoiler, just FYI, but basically, machine that predicts the future, and companies and countries become extremely reliant on its predictions. At first, it's great because they're able to see and prepare for a bunch of things. But then, the machine predicts world war. So countries panic. Countries around the world decide to take up arms to build up their arsenals. And what do you know? War breaks out. And it devastates the world. But here's the paradox. Had the machine never predicted war, there never would have been a war. And that's the lesson. That's the whole moral. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because maybe before they pushed that button on the machine, there was no war. Not only that, technology can simply be wrong. And people forget that. So all of our data is being collected. It's insane. Most of the data we give up, we surrender voluntarily. I disagree. I never want to give up my data. You're forced to give up your data if you want to use any service these days. Again, we need laws. But this data includes our demographics, our income, our facial characteristics, the sound of our voice, our precise location, shopping history, medical conditions, genetic information, what we search on the internet, the websites we visit, when we read an email, what apps we use, etc. Even how often we sleep and exercise. So the second trend driving this is the increased computing power that we have. You see, data is meaningless on its own, but with a lot of powerful computers, you can crunch that data into useful information, and that's what it's all about. But that's the scary thing, folks. That is the scary thing. The result is ultimately automated decisions by companies using this software based on each consumer's unique score that are, as a practical matter, irreversible. So if you get a bad score, you had a bad run of luck, you searched the wrong thing online, you get a low score, and then you suffer. And you don't even know that these companies are doing this. This is the story of the century. This is evil. This is what the journalists need to be exposing. And what are they doing? They're covering the riots and they're calling them peaceful, even though you can see people burning things in the street. Folks, someone has to do something about this. And then it goes on to make the point that the reason is because the scores themselves, as well as the data, are concealed. We don't know. We don't know who's doing what. It's all cloaks and daggers. This is literally shadow companies using shadow software to give you a shadow social score. Now, they compare this to the credit score system. It used to be that this was private, but in the 1970s, Congress established rules that let people see their own scores, and things have improved. So we may need that kind of stuff now. But it's even worse than it's ever been, because now they have access to infinitely more information. The story says, the tech industry insists that its every advance improves our lives, but that's a myth. Surveillance scoring enables companies to cloak old-school discrimination in an aura of technological infallibility and wonder. This is honestly worse than just straight-up bigotry, because I would rather be discriminated against because someone doesn't like my race than be discriminated against because somebody doesn't like my facial expressions and my Google searches. Yeah. How to build a boat. Survival skills. Big booties. And then, it goes on to point out the obvious. All of these secret surveillance scores create micro markets in which some consumers are no longer welcome. They divide Americans into haves and have-nots, with the losers relegated to the status of second-class citizens. That is a big fear. That is the big fear. So, the Washington Post petitioned the Federal Trade Commission to investigate and regulate surveillance scoring. What did the FTC do? Those useless hacks? Those wastes of space? They wrote a blog post saying, "We hope these companies develop their own scoring systems and self-report, and basically police themselves, be transparent. FTC, you freaking loser, do something. Do something about this. Ban this. This should be illegal. This is discrimination." So the FTC is being useless, but you know what? Make more complaints. I don't know. What can we do but complain? Complain and yell. And this is discriminatory because it literally said, if you live in the wrong neighborhood, and I imagine there's a lot of people who do, some of which are minorities, complain. Say that you're being discriminated against because of your race, because of where you live, because of who you are, because of your face. And the final paragraph here, secret surveillance scoring places us at the precipice of the singularity, a dystopian turning point after which machines will make judgments about humans that will determine our fate. We either seize control of our future or risk losing it. I couldn't have put it better myself. And it's funny because this has literally been written about in science fiction. The idea of machines making all of our decisions. It's all automated, and we no longer understand why. I'm going to leave this story off with the following quote. This user says, "Once men turned their thinking over to machines and hoped that this would set them free, but that only permitted other men with machines to enslave them. F. Herbert." But that, my friends, is merely the obvious. Well, that's all for now, folks. What do you think about this story? Let me know down below in the comment section. I think it's terrifying. If you want to support this channel, join me on Patreon or Subscribestar. If you want to donate, there's donor box, there's crypto, all that's down below in my description. And please share this video. Not for the channel this time. Please share this information. People need to know. Because unless people are aware of this, they're being discriminated against without their knowledge. There'll never be any change unless people know and people complain. Anyhow, thanks for watching. This has been Mr. Obvious, and I'll see you all next time.